think it's time for the Starbucks story.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So when I first
Now I want a coffee.
well, there's coffee right there, my
No,
love.
better not.
When I first started to dive into like really like I decided I want to be a coach. This was like what I wanted to do. I first studied with Robert Holden, who he's written many books, and he was the creator of the Happiness Project, which at the time was the only scientifically proven method to increase your level of happiness. So anyway, he was doing a coaching course. He's from England. It was his first time coming to New York to actually give this course. So, and the whole thing about me even getting there was amazing because the course was sold out, all these things, and it was like I just knew I was supposed to be there, and made a phone call, and suddenly there was an opening. Like everything just fell into place, right? So I'm in this course with like everybody there, like the whole theme is love. Okay, that's just the theme. And I'm so happy because that's my favorite thing on the planet. So I'm like, yay, we're going to talk about love for like a week. That's all we're going to talk about. And one of the things, it was like the third day. Oh my God, wait, I just have to tell you, it was marathon weekend in New York City in Times Square. That's where we were. So you can imagine like how crazy busy it was. But we were like in this little bubble in New York where you just had no idea that you were actually in that chaos and that craziness. And so one day he was talking about divine law. He's like, listen, you can either live under the law of logic, boring, or you can live under divine law. And I was like, well, I want to live under divine law. That just sounds like so much more fun than logic, right? So, he was telling us about, and basically it's living in miracles. It's allowing miracles. It's actually just living as much as you possibly can in the green, in your diamond, okay? It's exposing that. That's when we get to experience what we call miracles, which are actually than our natural state of being when we don't get in our way. That's actually much more natural than us doing this all day, which is just what we're trained to do. So he said, go tonight and tomorrow let me know what you notice. Anything happens under divine law or whatever. So that next morning, first of all, that night, I had two of my friends from Philly, because I don't know if you know, but I'm from Philly, came to visit me in New York, came to stay with me. And like that night, we came home and we went to get a cab. And we asked the bellman, can you get us a cab? And he was like, here, take this. And it was like this gorgeous stretch limo. I mean, it was like things like that. We're like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, that's for you. Like just crazy things were happening where, you don't plan these things. So the next morning, I get up, I dry my hair, I'm getting ready to go, and there's a Starbucks across the street. Now, at the time, I was a crazy coffee drinker. And I knew that the Starbucks coffee was going to be a heck of a lot better than what was in my little hotel room at the Westin. So I go downstairs, my hair's like still wet. I put on my makeup. I was like half done, and I was like, well, if I go now, like I have time to do this. It was like 8:45. I had to be at the seminar at 9:30, and it was in a different hotel. So I go downstairs. I look at my watch. I actually distinctly remember it was 8:40, and I walk into the Starbucks. It was the biggest Starbucks I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like a 2-story crazy Starbucks. And the line is like zigzagging. Now, I hadn't processed in my mind, which was actually good, oh my God, it's Times Square, it's marathon weekend, it's 8:40 on a Friday, like it's going to be crazy. None of that. I was just like, I want coffee. So I walk in, the line is crazy, and like my first initial response, right, so learned response was, I don't have time because I'm going to be late, and I don't want to be late. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. Robert said I live under divine law. I'm like, that's so much more attractive. So I just got myself in line, and I just, whatever. It was like, it just didn't even dawn on me. I was in such a state of like happiness, joy, it felt like this beautiful little bubble. So the guy comes up. Now, at the time, they had this guy that like took your order. He had like this little Madonna microphone. He was like the cutest thing. He was probably like 18 with like the big blue eyes, like just the cutest thing you've ever seen. And he comes over and he's like, what can I get you? And I said, I just wanted a black coffee. That was all I wanted. And in a joke, I said, do you have, is there an express line? Because I thought maybe they have an express line for people that just want coffee. Like, I don't need anything fancy. And he said, no, but that's a great idea. And I was like, okay. So meanwhile, I'm just happy in line. So he comes up to me like 2 minutes later. Meanwhile, the line behind me is piling up. The line in front of me is not moving. Like 2 minutes later, I think I had been in there like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And he goes, you see that kiosk over there? So this Starbucks is so big that they had a kiosk where they only sold tchotchkes, like only like the little tchotchke stuff. No coffee, no barista, nothing, just like little cups and, you know, stuff like that. That lady over there has your coffee. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, she has your coffee. Well, meanwhile, like a crazy lady, I look at him, tears start pouring down my face. I look in this poor kid's eyes and I'm like, I see you, right? And he's like, what? And I'm like, inside. Because all I was thinking was like, oh my God, we're so connected, you know? It's like, brother. Poor kid. And I'm hugging him over a cup of coffee, okay? I'm hugging him. Tears are pouring down my face, right? And I walk over to the kiosk and I said, you know, if his name was like TJ or something, I said, TJ sent me over here. She goes, you know, I have to tell you, she said, I've worked here for 5 years and this has never happened. She said, we don't sell coffee here. She said, this has never happened. You wait in line for your coffee. And I was like, whoa. So I go to the seminar and, you know, Robert's like, does anybody have a story? And I'm like, you know, I was that kid. And he said to me, you know, Andy, he said, there is no difference in you receiving that cup of coffee and you receiving $1 million. He said, because in the eyes of the universe, there's no difference in value. We make the difference in value. He said, and you were willing to accept that cup of coffee. And I was like, yes, I was. But my point is that, you know, I told a cute little story about coffee, but there are many, many, many stories that we've all experienced that we're like, whoa, how did that even happen? Because we can choose to live under the law of logic, which would have opened up the door to Starbucks and said, line's too long, I'm never going to make it, I'm going to be late. Or the law of, you know, divine law, which is, I'm going to get my coffee and everything's going to be fine. Okay? That is here for all of us at all times. Like, that is actually the way that we are intended to live, is under divine law. We just make up these stories based on this. We get in the red, we get in moods, and we think logically, but I can't see a way for this to happen, and therefore we block it.